Hi, Nadia. Good to see you. Good to see you. It's really wonderful having you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Nice to see you, Nadia. Nice to see you, Partho Ganguly. Nice. I've used the word nice.
Very good.
Nadia, before we start, just we will have a quick introduction of your profile. I mean, it really gives me a great pleasure having you with us, and I I acknowledge all the team, including Sanjay, Yogesh, Kathleen, and as well as Jerry, and very important person is Ambika, who's an enabler. To have NICE with us in this, International WFM Summit is really great. And great having you again after our Manila event. People love to listen to you always.
Well, thank you. We're certainly very happy to be here and participating again. We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Give me a minute. Let me have your introduction. For audience and everyone, for those who do not know about Nadia, Nadia has got close to 2 decades of experience in WFM, one of the WFM experts. She earlier worked with Virgin Mobile, IAG, okay, and then Jet Set Travel Group, Variant, and Aspects, and a couple of other companies. And currently, Nadia is a workforce, WFO solution manager, APAC. She works out of Sydney, Australia. What Nadia's expertise is WFO solutions, and she's been very instrumental in presenting keynote speeches. In APAC, in majority of events. And she's been expertised in pipeline generations of sales and identifying the customers' needs and customer presentations, and work closely with the product development team to build world-class products and delivering effective on-site training to diverse range of clients across Asia-Pac. It's really great having you with us, Nadia. If I left out anything, want to hear any of the new updates about you, over to you.
No, I think that's a pretty good summary. Thank you.
With this, I have the control back to you. You're the presenter, Nadia.
Okay, so you can't see my screen yet, no?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I see the control now. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Are we ready to start, Shiva, or should we wait?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me just change to presentation mode. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As Shiva mentioned, I work for NICE. I'm the Workforce Optimization Solutions Manager for Asia Pacific. And it's kind of a unique role in NICE. So I'm kind of like a sales overlay, pre-sales, or just that person who gets a lot of questions around the application and the practice in the region. A bit about my background personally, as Shiva mentioned, I have had quite a lot of time in contact centers, but I'm not someone who came from university. I'm someone who started as an agent. So I was an agent at Virgin Mobile and at Vodafone, and got bored enough being on the phones and kept bugging the workforce management team to help with real time, and then eventually got put on that team, and then sort of just kept going from there. So I think the unique thing I bring to the role is like a 360-degree view. I can remember I was like an agent for about 6 or 7 years, so I remember quite in detail what that life was like and the things that bother agents. So yes, I work for a technology company, and selling technology is a big part of my role, but I'm very much passionate about the people side of things, the agent experience. So what we're going to focus on today is enabling an agile workforce. So let's get started. So I always have this slide up at the start of pretty much every presentation that I do on any of the workforce management themes. I'm not going to read all of these points out to you, and we will share the pack after the presentation. But this is about helping customers and people like yourselves identify where you kind of sit on the WFM maturity model spectrum and where you want to get to in your WFM roadmap. So you may pick out certain parts of your technology or your practice on different areas of this spectrum. And we are going to discuss about an agile workforce, and some of these elements in the leading space will really help facilitate you to become a more agile organization and respond to change quicker. Things like having a cloud platform, right? It's much easier to scale up and down when you have a SaaS or cloud-based product rather than looking at premise-based technology. Lots of AI and machine learning and automation. So this is something to kind of keep in mind as we move through. And it's not an end game journey that all of a sudden you buy some services and products and you're in the leading space. Like, it's an evolving practice, workforce management, and the business changes, and we need to change along with that. And sometimes, as I said, we're in different parts of this tier. So the need, right? And I know I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. I think I was commenting to a friend recently, it seems all the people who either didn't lose their jobs, everyone who kept their jobs is completely flat out. And that's true no matter what kind of industry you're in. It's certainly true for everyone in my industry. So yeah, they've moved to working from home or working from anywhere. And it was for those people who were listening to the panel discussion before, there was a good discussion on that, and it's going to come up through this presentation as well. People are dispersed, right? And there's a dramatic increase in the contact center traffic through all of the channels, voice, email, chat, and so on. So we have a workforce that's now moved everywhere, and they have to do more than ever and churn through more demand. But we also have service levels, right? They have to maintain a certain level of service, not only in the way they handle the interaction, but how they actually action that interaction as well. So we're going to talk about some of the best practices around managing that type of environment, right? Because it's challenging. So we don't really know if we've moved from BCP to BAU. If we've moved from business continuity planning to how the world is going to be, no one really knows. And I can tell you in Australia, we've gone forward with COVID, everything's going great, and some states have gone, nah, we're going backwards, yeah? And then now the restrictions come back in. So how do we come up with a set of best practices when the ground is constantly shifting under our feet? Forward, back, yes, no, we don't really know. So here's some things and some tips and tricks to help you at least navigate and work out the best way you can. So, okay, the more things change, the more they should stay the same. And best of luck to all of us. It's a challenge, right? So keep as many things the same as possible. And what they're saying, what they mean on this is like the cadence of meetings, of communications and things like that. Schedules are published in so many weeks. We have this type of process around leave. So it's trying to ensure that, I guess, everything just doesn't go like the Wild West, and try and keep a routine and a consistency. IT teams, I heard of another organization who went, yeah, okay, everyone go from home, and then the VPN completely overloaded and it didn't actually allow so many people to access on there. If you are thinking of changing the strategy and where people can work from, of course, they need to be involved. We're going to speak about business priorities in a little more detail as we move through. The goalposts may change, right? They may have to change. And for us in workforce management, right, we wouldn't have jobs in workforce management if it wasn't about goals. Yeah, that's what our whole life is about, is how many people do we need to meet this goal? And so the goals may change. And to us, that's a very important piece of information. And the schedules, and we're going to look at schedules in some more detail too. So some other tips, and I know, again, you may already be down this road, and then you may be thinking like we were, things were getting better, and then they go back, so you have to kind of readapt. Over communicate, and I saw this on the presentation, and I'm kind of like one of those people, the over communication, I think you need to find a happy medium on communication, because you can actually become annoying. So when it comes to communicating with your employees, I guess think about the content that you're sharing, think about the channels, so the best way to actually communicate with them. and develop a communication plan that encompasses all departments. So if you're making changes to operating hours, for example, or to the types of calls somebody can take, perhaps marketing need to be involved because certain materials say we're typically open this time, or the website only says our operating hours, or whatever they may be. So the channel as well, at NICE, they have a whole, we have a whole team called, it's called the Great Virtual Place to Work team. And we've had bingo nights, we have had a comedian, we have had a concert, we've had karaoke. And you know what, like, I can be a little bit cynical, but they are fun, right? And they create a sense of inclusion, and they don't cost much to do. So if you think about the contact center agent, and they would have had a regular team meeting with their team, so perhaps this is something that can be incorporated into that team meeting, and bring a sense of fun and inclusion into the virtual meeting. So we're really looking at ways to keep the employees engaged. Just because you're working from anywhere doesn't mean you're not still part of our team. So the KPIs may change with a move to remote work. And these are things that you need to really, really consider the operational impact of changing them. What behavior is it going to drive? What is it going to cost me? What does that mean to my plans, right? Because again, we're goal driven, and changing the goals is typically not an undertaking that we go lightly with, right? So if we're going to reevaluate, perhaps we've cross-skilled in a way we've never cross-skilled before. So we have people who aren't as confident or who are still coming up, and so we're going to accept a higher AHT, for example, or hold time while they look for support. These are some things, rather than just grappling with it on an ad hoc basis. So you see this high AHT coming through, you're like, oh my God, my requirements shot up. Maybe you need to pause and have a strategic discussion with the operation. Is this our new way of being? Is it no longer 300 seconds for us? Is it 400? Is it 500? And now are we going to redo July, August, September on the 500, rather than just reacting to the 500 by pulling our hair out and looking for overtime? Maybe we need to accept that as a new reality and apply it forward. Maybe we don't, but this is a kind of there was a really excellent point on the last panel about sometimes this forces us to take pause and take stock. And you could be using that as an opportunity to go, okay, we need to look at this. Adherence, okay, you may need to decide that we need to pay a little bit more attention to it. I wouldn't expect that the KPI will necessarily change, because people are adults and they should be doing what they're doing, whether they're at home or not. That's the beauty of having a technology where people can log in from anywhere. They're still going to get schedules, and they should still be adhering to them. But you may, just decide to pay an extra second look at that, because, they may be spending longer on things that they shouldn't be. Attrition is funny. I think there was, attrition, probably you'll find has dropped right off at the moment, typically because of just job insecurity, right? I think the unemployment in Australia is now hitting like 6.5%, which is not insignificant for us, and it is about to climb as businesses were relying on government support for a period. That support's going to drop off, so we anticipate greater job losses. So attrition, probably no, but as it's saying, you can look for capitalization on perhaps some new entrants into the workforce that may not otherwise have been there. And shrinkage, okay, it's not uncommon to see those increases initially while people are just grappling with, perhaps they have to have extra team meetings, extra communications, there's extra processes to roll out. So we may have an increase in non-phone time. The forecast, right, is everything to us. So what are we going to do about it? Again, it's about understanding that balance of what has been an anomaly for a while, and then now is this the new reality? And if it is the new reality, how long is it going to go for? These are big and challenging questions to answer because, like I said, even here, we just don't know. One week we think we're fine, the next week we're not fine, and people go back and forward like this. So in some industries, that is a really acute change in demand, and it's not easy. So we're saying be aware, reforecast often, and that last clanger, the other channels. So I know a lot of you still do not have omni-channel contact centers. Perhaps the data exists in disparate sources. Perhaps it's not integrated into WFM. So when that's the case, and you're just looking at your phone calls in and out in WFM and not the other channels, that's something that, you know, keep an eye on that, because there's a lot of demand coming in from other places. So, you know, the first slide said be consistent, keep things the same. This one says expect the unexpected, and I think, you know, that's about right. As much as we're workforce planners, right? It's in the names, it's in our title, planning. That's what we're all about. And all of a sudden, we're faced with a situation that is just a first in any of our lifetimes, doesn't exist in any historical data set. And, you know, planning, it becomes almost, you know, laughable because we just don't know. But I think having that, the key word on this slide is flexibility. And being ready and willing to perhaps embrace new ways of working, new ways of servicing customers, new channels, new operating hours, new goals, because we have to, right? We have to. We have to find a way to still meet that target with the cards that we've been dealt. And the what if analysis, super important, right? So we spoke about perhaps we don't know where the dust is going to settle. So let's model out if this trend is going to continue for the next 16 weeks. Let's model out if it continues, but only with perhaps an 8% growth instead of a 15% growth. Let's model out a whole different bunch of scenarios. And you should have the technology to support you doing that. But you need to be running those plans and coming up with some ideas. So flexibility in the schedules, right? I've got a lot of inquiries lately from customers who now need to try and schedule in a way that they've never scheduled before. Perhaps they want to look at split shifts because people are working from home. So do a bit in the morning and a bit in the afternoon. Perhaps they want to look at allocating blocks of time for different tasks. Availability points, this is about gamifying your schedule, you know, giving agents their preferences. So this may be something that you need to consider. Perhaps the old 8-hour shift just doesn't make sense for you anymore, and the world as it is anymore. So that's something that you need to be running those what if scenarios as well in order to arrive at a place for scheduling where it could be more flexible. And these can include things like shorter shifts. You know, they're not having to travel to and from a physical location. So perhaps we're going to look at those blocks of shifts for periods of times. This moves as changes is really talking about perhaps some of the self-service capability that agents may be able to leverage, and those auto approvals. So to help them sort of be more reactive to shift opportunities. They still need to have regular touch points with their supervisors and peers to keep engaged, right? And being able to turn on a dime. So again, being able to respond to change really quickly will be vital. Again, I pick on the example of one of our states pulling back on the restrictions, you know, and the Friday we wouldn't have envisaged that, and on the Monday it was true. Now, we had a lot of customers who are planning to reopen businesses, for example, and if you pick on a retail or some sort of hospitality or something like that, they had completely planned to staff up on that Monday, and it's all been cancelled. So being able to really respond in a way that's almost in real time is super important, and being able to reforecast and re-simulate. This is nice talk for rebalancing the skills across your agents and reconsidering their time utilization is really, really important. Okay, we're being sort of asked to perform the tasks we normally do almost at light speed. now. So some of the barriers to flexibility, why people haven't adopted some of these approaches before, and I'm just checking a time check. We won't. So I think with scheduling and really changing to a flexible model, these are some of the broad categories we see and some barriers. Like it's either sort of perceived as too difficult, right? The business needs won't be covered. Perhaps it won't be considered fair. They think that if it's not a very rules-based schedule, that the preferences won't be fairly met. And perhaps picking up a new concept such as shift bidding. So we're really looking here to sort of being able to bring some of the best practices to providing work-life balance. And we call this around work-life balance, but it really does come into play when creating an agile workforce, because we can now look at giving different shifts just in pockets of demand. So these are some of the key elements to providing work-life balance. So, you know, beginning with the right requirement. So we spoke about forecasts being so important. So especially in these times, we really need to know what it is that we need. Being able to generate a really smart schedule that understands people who have multi-skills, for example, and being able to provide the schedules to our agents via a multiple array of media is really important as well. Okay, so schedule generation, you know, we can look at the overall availability of our agents and use this machine learning model in order to create the most efficient schedule. And this falls back into that sort of what if planning, where we can come up with different scheduling patterns to try and find the best fits of those shifts. If we decide to move away from perhaps the 8-hour to shorter shifts. So we can consume all of these information, such as agent leaves and their skill assignment, to come up with the best fit of shifts. You know, and who benefits from this? Well, everyone really. So again, for part-time workers, if we want to move to that really gig style of scheduling, and basically all of us really benefit from this. So I'm just going to move forward. Just into terms of communication, we spoke at the start about being able to offer communicate in different channels through to the agent. So this is just some screen grabs of some different technology that's available through NICE. We have a web-based portal, a mobile app. You may have some similar technologies from other vendors in your own enterprise. I have found that a lot of customers don't really roll out the self-service that well, or the adoption isn't great, or they tried it and then didn't go along with it. So this crisis may provide a time where you go back and look at your self-service strategy and decide, okay, yes, we are going to enable schedule changes, or yes, we are going to enable schedule trades, swaps, and leave requests through the web portal or through the mobile app. Again, it's part about engaging the agents when they're not in the physical contact center and making them what we call our WFM partners. So giving them the ability to set preferences around the way they're communicated to. So send me a shift request only between certain hours of a certain length, and really sort of giving them that control over their scheduling process. So if you do move to a very flexible model, if you do have people who are outside of your organization, they can still feel as if they're part of your WFM practice, and that they certainly are part of your enterprise. And just lastly, before we close out, there are people in the industry, and yes, I'm from NICE, but you know, we're not the only ones, but who can help you with your processes. So if you feel that you're struggling with any of this, and I'm having a lot of interesting conversations at the moment with businesses who are particularly in New Zealand. New Zealand's a bit ahead, and they're transitioning out of COVID. There are no restrictions at all. And now they're deciding to look back at this period and go, what part of that really flexible process do we want to keep as BAU? And what are we going to only keep as an emergency process? So we're helping them to work out what the new way of working is going to be. They're looking at moving people, for example, between retail stores and contact centers, because that's what they had to do during COVID. And now we're helping them write a best practices guide on what post-COVID life will look like. So don't hesitate to look outside of your own enterprise for services and consulting to help you really enable that agility in your workforce. So I think I'm right on the time for the Agile Workforce presentation. I think, Shiva, if there are any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Nadia. I'm just checking. If there are any questions. Dear audience, you can raise your questions. You can either type or raise your hand there so that I can unmute you. You will have an option to ask questions.
Let's see this chat. Oh, someone's asked, will we get a copy? Yes, we can certainly make a copy of the presentation available. You're also welcome. There is the GWFM webpage, and there's also been quite a few posts shared on LinkedIn. So if anybody ever wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, you're always welcome to, and happy to either help GWFM with questions, or you can connect with me that way if you do think of anything else.
Great. Yeah, that is one question. And now we have one question from Sanjay Khatri. Sanjay. Mm-hmm. Sanjay, you can.
If you can type it, if we can't hear.
Hi, Nadia. Can you hear me now?
I got you. Yeah. Hi.
Okay, great. I just added you to my LinkedIn, so it'd be great to connect with you.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I work with WNS, and we are trying to set up the NICE now, and I'm working with Samir Kale here in India. Yes. Pretty good. I've looked at your recent capabilities and functionalities. Really amazing. So worked with Convergence for long, and I didn't see those functionalities there. I think they were just using the previous version, maybe.
Right. Okay.
But great, great functionalities. One thing that I really wanted to check with you, and I know there's another team in IEX which kind of cares for this, is the workload allocation for back office. So that's where we are struggling. I think with the voice businesses, it's very simple, straightforward. CMS data comes into WFM and processed and all. But the back office is where we're struggling. Is there any strategy that NICE is working on to kind of solve this? There are other vendors available in the market which are kind of doing bits and pieces. But it's time now. I think NICE should be looking at it, or if they already have.
It kind of depends on what you want from the integration. So certainly NICE WFM can be integrated to a whole host of ACDs and also to non-voice channels. And we do that regularly, right? To chat systems, to Salesforce, to all different types of systems. And from there, the WFM team can create forecasts and schedules. You can add on something like desktop analytics, and we can even get adherence for the back office part of the organization or for the non-voice channels. But it's kind of, it's maybe something we want to chat offline so I can understand in more detail why it's perhaps been challenging and what else that we can do for it. But we regularly get requests for WFM to be integrated to lots of non-voice systems. And it's something that we do regularly.
Yep, sure. Yeah, maybe we can talk about this offline.
Yeah, do shoot me a message. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Pretty impressed with the new, offerings from NICE. Wow. Really great. If all of it comes true in the gig economy, we're trying to, settle in. I think it's really going to be helpful.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I, as you saw from my bio, I've worked for a few WFM vendors, and it's always great to hear that the product is good. But I'm very much, the product is just one part of it, right? We are WFM people. We are scheduling for people. So it is the practices. It's the practices that will make a WFM team excellent. The technology is an enabler. And it's great to have, the Mercedes-Benz as opposed to the go-kart or something. It always makes our job a little more helpful. But if you're looking at rolling out to a different line of business, particularly back office, don't forget the change management piece. Don't forget what are your practices going to be, and that will make you guys superstars when you roll it out. Yeah.
I agree. It's going to be a long journey.
Right,
thanks, Nadia.
All the good journeys are always long, right?
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. Any other questions? Nice to speak to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have Lalit. Lalit, you can raise your question now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can now, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Shiva. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask question to Nadia. And Nadia, thank you so much for giving us the walkthrough of these functionalities, which are coming in. As Sanjay mentioned, I think these are the great functionalities to explore, which would really help in this agile environment. Now, since and I personally like IEX as more than for almost more than 2 decades. I'm working on IEX, and I think it's been off late that from last 2 years I have been out of touch from IEX and started working on other platforms for other platforms for workforce management. I'm also a certified administrator for IEX and supporting IEX, working and providing trainings on IEX in my previous organization for version R3 and version R4. So since I've been out of touch, and this is probably my personal thought, how can NICE help all the WFM professionals, to keep ourselves up to date with the recent development which is happening? I mean, is there kind of any certifications which WFM professional per se can take it on NICE platforms and keep ourselves updated?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So I'll start at the end first. So in terms of certifications, I think that's more of, we do offer certifications, but like for our partners and resellers. So there is that sort of program that exists if you're in that ecosystem. But in what I would encourage you to do, and everyone, as a NICE, if any NICE customers on the call, if you have not already, is download the NICE User Group app. The NICE User Group, and I can perhaps through Shiva share the instructions after the call. So the NICE User Group has access to documents, it has access to learning materials, you get access to other NICE users all around the globe. And like they take this user group really seriously. It has a president, it has a vice president. These are non-NICE people, right? These are, managers from other organizations. There's an ASEAN chapter of the user group as well. But that's really your plug-in to the NICE community. You'll see events listed on there, webinars listed on there. You can also do things, and this is interesting, you can log product enhancement requests on there. And sometimes, and then what happens is you log an idea. Why doesn't this screen do this, right? And then it gets peer voted on. And if your idea gets enough votes, product management, I have seen this happen. They do see it, and it can make it into a later release. But that's your place for all things NICE, right? You can go and ask them questions. Hey, I'm struggling with this. You can go on there and complain about us. Oh my God, they're being too slow, whatever you want, right? This is and there are NICE moderators to this thing, right? But we keep a very hands-off approach. It is a community for NICE users.
Right.
And that's their ecosystem to go and share information, share tips. There's training materials in there, everything in there. I can make those instructions available, how you can get a login and all. But there is also a mobile app.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say, that would be my suggestion, that if, NICE can further collaborate with GWFM, and GWFM can be the platform which provides the environment, or like, IDE, the integrated development or the training environment, within within NICE space, where, we can run the dummy forecast. And this is this is only from the perspective of training, that where we can see right from planning to scheduling to real-time management to web station implementations and things like that.
Well, maybe you've given Shiva and I something to talk about after the call, right? It's not a bad idea. But definitely today, the user group is something you can at least start with, and you'll get a lot of good content out of there.
Okay, thank you, Nadia.
No worries,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thanks, Nadia. Currently, GWFM offers course in gig and contingent, and also, multiple other, like Agile workforce as well. Probably we can talk offline with this along with Lalit. Thanks for Lalit bringing this up, and this is really eye-opener. Great. Nadia, I have one question from Durga Srikant. He's asking what is the block scheduling mean?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. And sorry that the slide had a bit of nice jargon in there. What block scheduling means is when you don't have like an integration to perhaps an email system, for example, but you know people need to be on email time every day. They need some, 3 hours to be allocated to another duty. And I'm going to use email as the example. What you can do is say to the nice WFM scheduler, Nadia and Shiva, they need 3 hours of email time a day. A block can be 30 minutes or it can be up to 3 hours in duration. The blocks can only fall between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. The blocks cannot be at the start of their schedule or the end of the schedule, or they can be. And what I'm getting at is you set up the parameters of where this time is going to go on their schedule, right? And then when you go to run a schedule, the scheduling engine considers that it needs to add those blocks to my schedule and Shiva's schedule. And then it looks for the most optimal place to put that email time on the schedule. So that's kind of like a hybrid approach for some of our customers who are doing a blended configuration of scheduling. And where the non-voice work is not coming via an integration in any way, shape or form, but they know that work needs to be done. So it's just a way to tell the workforce planners, and also from a time utilization perspective, we can see it on their schedule. And that's sort of the concept of block scheduling. In the ideal world, right, in the ideal world, you would have an omni-channel contact center that routes emails, chats, voice to the agent. Like every interaction is like a voice call, right? It's coming via the omni-channel contact center, and they wouldn't have to worry about things like this. They would just be open and they would be skilled appropriately. One interaction is a chat, the next one is a voice call, the next one is an email. But in the absence of nirvana, sometimes we have to do these workarounds, and that's what block scheduling is about. Does that make sense? Hope
I think
so.
since we asked through chat, I think that should be fine. In case of anything that I can certainly connect with him and connect you to him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I see any other questions in the chat window. Yeah, there's one question from Chaitali. He's asking that how people analytics adding value to the business. This functional question. Would you like to take it up, Nadia?
Sorry, the line is a little scratchy. Do you mind repeating that, please?
Yeah, how people analytics adding value to the business. This is a question not from Chaitali.
How can the agents be still adding value? Sorry,
Yes.
Sorry, I'm still not sure I got the question. Can you just try me one more time? I can hear background.
How people analytics adding value to the business. She's asking about people analytics adding value to the business.
How are people analytics adding value
to the business?
Well, I'm not. Can you ask them what they mean by people analytics? I'm not sure what that actually means. Is it possible for them to explain? Or can anyone explain what they think that means to me? How people analytics? What kind of analytics? Or what does that mean?
I will share this.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not sure how to answer because I'm not sure what they mean by people analytics.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking this question. People analytics is definitely going to be adding value to the business. One is in accountability. It also helps taking decisions. In the analytics, there are 5 types, right? So very important thing is to look at predictive analytics. If you look at it, right, we would be able to figure out that how is it like we can fix the problem, and how is it we can solution the business. And under the accountability, you see that currently during the COVID-19, you see the kind of situation, and with the help of, this is not predicted. This is something like uncertain. However, still most of the organizations are looking at predicting. Using the predictive analytics to have the correct future business pipeline, and also trying to align the talent to the business.
Yeah, okay.
However,
I think I understand. I would just go back to I think I had a slide and we spoke about this, about having many different scenarios modeled out. And yes, I know that you're unsure, but if you've sort of thought of the likely different contingencies, or the way that it's going to play out, if it goes one direction versus another, then you'll already have the right answers based on that analytics to help, you know, the business move in a certain direction, and that will be the value. It's not that nobody knows, so nobody can predict. I think it's about running different options and being ready to move in different directions is where the value would come.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it is a tough question, and it really is. It's not easy, and I get it. I think we've just got to do the best that we can. Somebody who that actually, in a way, could become more valuable than.
How do I share screen? It's coming to an end here. Huh?
I'm sorry. Is that another question or?
This is the PPT.
Shiva, sorry.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Are there any more questions? We can take, one more question if required.
Okay. Well, I think if Shiva, if we have no more questions, am I handing over? It's gone quiet.
Sure. If there are any questions, I'll definitely pass on to you, Nadia. So
yes, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. Again, you're very welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you do think of any questions post the session, here to help you. We will be on the panel discussion as well as presenting some of the new nice functions tomorrow. So hopefully get the chance to speak to you again. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nadia, for your presence. It's really
thank
you so much.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
I strongly believe that, nice organizations are built by nice people, and they're worth saluting. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.